We're going to take a moment to recognize that here in Nevada, we stand on the land of the Washishu, Washoe, the Numi, Northern Paiute, the Niue, Western Shoshone, the Nuwu, Southern Paiute. We take a moment to recognize and honor their stewardship that continues into today. With this recognition, we state an intention to rightfully include their voice and to respect them as the 27 sovereign tribal nations of Nevada. Okay, Sue?
All righty. Don't forget to mute everybody, Eva.
Yep, they're muted.
Oh, for some reason I'm not. Hi, everyone. I'm Sue Birch. Technically, I am the executive director of Nevada Now, but Nevada Now would not be what it is without some incredible human beings on our board. You just met Eva Love. She is our secretary. You will hear from Jerry Burton in a moment. She is our director of volunteers and membership. Michelle Maese is not here. She's busy adulting, but she is our director of outreach. Laura Campbell is on here. She's our director of action and has been our lead speaker when it comes to the reproductive health care ballot initiative. So big kudos to Laura. Sarah Evans is here somewhere. She is our director of fundraising. Lenoring Briley is back from moving her camper in her driveway, and she is our treasurer. Shanze, you will hear from in a few minutes. She is our director of programs and our coalition coordinator. Madalena Robertson is our director of tech and media and does all those fabulous graphics that we try to put out. And lo and behold, from Virginia, our director of youth outreach, Samantha Glover, has joined us today. We're very proud of her. She's finishing up her first year of college and is going to come back to Reno fairly soon, but took some time out from final studying to be on this call today. So yay! Okay, now I'm going to put my Nevada Now PAC hat on. And let you know that, yes, we're still in the middle of endorsing candidates for the primary and general election. Everybody up and down the ballot, from state offices to local offices, including judicial, which we have a few candidates on here. Over the last month, we have conducted over 40 interviews. That's been fun. But we are in the process. I think we've endorsed about 15 to 20 people so far, and we have some more coming. So don't lose hope. My goal is to get these all done and get a voting guide done by the 1st of May, if not the first week of May, because early voting starts on the 25th. And with that, our next meeting is not going to be on a Sunday, the 19th. We're shooting for, I think it was the 22nd, Jerry. Yeah, I think it's the 22nd.
You and I talked about it. Yeah, the 22nd, we thought 6 o'clock. So
the 22nd of May. We're going to focus on the nonpartisan races with an emphasis on judicial, because in most cases, when it comes to the judicial races, the primary is it. If they get 50 plus 1, Sandra, correct me if I'm wrong, 50 plus 1 in the primary, that election, am I right? Yep. Okay.
So actually, for the judicial races, they have to go to the general election ballot. But if
some of them are just primary,
yeah, some of them it just ends up being one name.
Yeah, but there are some that are just our primary. But I think it's isn't it 50 plus 1.
So they technically can't win, even so their name will go on to the general election ballot, even though it goes on by itself.
Oh, okay. But still, it's crucial that we get those judicial candidates on the general ballot. So in the past, when we've done candidate forums, I've kind of left judicial to the end. So I'm going to push them forward. And, that's what we're going to do right before early voting starts. So pay attention to our social media and emails, and we'll get that out as soon as we can. But talk briefly, an update on the ballot initiative. We are this close to achieving the 200,000 signatures that the campaign wants for the ballot initiative. The goal was 102. We're now at 160 plus, 160,000 plus. We participated in the powwow yesterday, and I'm very proud of the fact that I was able to get some signatures from all 4 congressional districts while being on the UNLV campus. So that's kind of awesome. There's one last push next Saturday by the campaign to get signatures. So if you know people that have not gotten signatures, look for events out there that'll be happening all over the state. We have agreed to join Sandra Cosgrove's event next Saturday at CSN. So I'm going to let Sandra tell you about that for a couple of seconds here.
So Saturday, April 27th from 9 a.m. until noon, we'll be at the College of Southern Nevada North Las Vegas campus. So that's 3200 East Cheyenne Avenue, North Las Vegas, 89030. We will be in the Student Union. So that's the very first building that sits when you turn left or right. I guess if you're turning into the campus at the light, it's the very first building. So we'll be in that building. Just come in the doors and you'll see us. We're going to have Artists for Democracy there. We're going to have a couple of different student groups who are going to be there. But Artists for Democracy are going to bring tote bags and t-shirts and a button making machine for anybody that's working on an issue or a candidate, and it will all be free. And you can make them for your issue or your candidate, and then you'll have them to distribute out. We'll have breakfast foods as well. So lots of coffee, orange juice, bagels, those types of things.
Yeah, don't hide the donuts this time, Sandra.
Yes, we got to make sure the donuts are right in front this time.
But yeah, we will definitely be at that event with petitions. So again, if you know anybody that has not signed, send them that way or look for other events that are happening around town. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shanze to start the program. And thank you all for being here.
Sue, did you want me to put volunteer stuff?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry. I completely forgot. Sorry.
No. I'll be quick. Sorry, Shanze. No, I'll be quick. So we wanted to let everybody know that. So I'm in charge now of volunteers and memberships. So if you haven't renewed your membership or you're not sure if it's come up or whatever, get a hold of me. But we've been letting everybody know what a big year this is, as Sue said. All the things we'll be working on. And our PAC. So we're wanting people to let us know if they want to volunteer in any way. And we had talked about we might come up with something like I saw somebody was doing like a 15-minute activist. So we might come out with something where you can tweet something or do an email to somebody or make a phone call. So some easy things to do. And also we'll be canvassing. We're going to have a special candidate canvassing opportunity that we're going to learn more about and can share with you once we know. So if you're interested in canvassing for endorsed candidates with us, you can let me know. I'm going to put some stuff in the chat on how to get a hold of me by either texting me or emailing me. And so we're all, most of you know us, but we're all volunteer and we're funded by our membership and donations. So I'll put some information in there how you can, because some people just want to donate. They don't want to go out and canvass. They don't want to, they want to do something from home. So we'll make that easy for you. And also we've been working with Women for Biden-Harris campaign. National Now has endorsed the Biden-Harris campaign back in, I think, November. And so they do the federal, any endorsements on the federal level. And we've been working with Donna West, and I'll put in a link to the Facebook page if you want to join Women for Biden-Harris and learn about activities that are going on around Nevada for the campaign. So I'll put my contact. If you have any questions on how to get involved, you can contact me. So thanks so much.
So yeah, lots of stuff going on. It's exciting and scary all at the same time. So yeah, if you can give 15 minutes or a couple of hours, that would be absolutely great. And now, Shanze, it's all yours.
Thank you all. Thanks everyone for being here today. Welcome to our April program. My name is Shanze, she, her pronouns. Folks may or may not know April is National Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And today we are discussing domestic violence and sexual assault services, the current challenges service providers are facing, and how folks can get involved and support policy and social solutions towards ending domestic violence and sexual violence. We have some amazing guests on today. We have three organizations that focus on working with folks that have experienced domestic and sexual violence. We have Beth Flory from Safe House in Henderson, Nevada. Serena Evans that works with the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence, and Liz Carrasco with Signs of Hope, which was formerly Rape Crisis Center. We'll be giving space to each of the folks today, and we're going to be starting with Beth Flory. Beth Flory serves as the executive director of Safe House in Henderson. Originally from Michigan, Ms. Flory held supervisory roles assisting at-risk youth in various capacities before relocating to Las Vegas. Joining Safe House in 2009, she commenced her tenure by fielding crisis calls in the shelter before transitioning into the impactful role of children's advocate. Ms. Flory's contributions and leadership capabilities saw her ascend to the position of Director of Operations, a role she held until stepping into the role of Executive Director in 2021. Ms. Flory's dedication extends beyond her professional endeavors. She harbors a profound passion for ending violence against women and children. Moreover, she remains committed to supporting marginalized communities, embodying a steadfast commitment to social justice. I'll pass it on over to you, Ms. Flory.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be back. I actually presented, it was almost 3 years ago, I think, and it was right before I became the executive director. So I do recognize some faces on here, which is super cool. I'm going to do a real quick just slideshow about Safe House. It's more to keep me on track of what I want to talk about. So I'm going to share my screen. And thank you, Shanze, for that introduction. I appreciate that. So let me share my screen real quick, see if I can make it happen. Maybe. All right, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Yay. Okay, so I'm from Safe House, which is located in Henderson, and that's our information there. We're over near Toro University, for those of you who are in the Las Vegas area, near where the auto mall is, where all the cars are sold. That's our office location. Our emergency shelter is in an undisclosed location. We have a 24-hour crisis hotline that anybody can call. We help lots of individuals on that crisis hotline beyond those who are victims of domestic violence, and we provide referrals. Basically, somebody calls, we try to help them out, no matter what that is. We were founded in 1994, so I am very excited to say that we are currently celebrating our 30-year anniversary this year, and we do have some events coming up that I'd love to share after I'm done to commemorate those 30 years. And we were started by a bunch of people here in Henderson. The two people in the picture are Julie and Ken Proctor. Julie Proctor was a survivor of domestic violence, and Ken was a judge in the Henderson court. And he would see that a lot of individuals were not finding places to go. And Julie, being a survivor, they got together and got a bunch of community members together and founded Safe House. The services that we have include a 24-hour crisis hotline, emergency shelter, which has 62 beds. It's located in a confidential, undisclosed location. Within that shelter, we have a children's activity center, the position I actually held for a number of years. We do recreational, educational projects, after-school tutoring. We have fun events on different occasions. We just had a spring picnic with an Easter egg hunt. And then we also just help with school or any needs that the kids have. We also have a housing manager. That individual assists our survivors in finding affordable housing, which is a challenge these days. That's usually the thing that I harp on. That's a challenge for us, is finding affordable housing, but she helps work with our clientele to find places and any other needs that they have. We also have a case manager in our shelter program. They tag team a lot to help with job interviews, resumes, getting IDs, birth certificates. And then part of that housing program is we do get funding through various sources to help with paying security deposit, first month's rent. We also have funding that we've received where we help pay for electric bills that are past due, basically trying to remove any kind of boundary we have to help our survivors get into their own place and out of our emergency shelter and away from the abusive partner so they can have a safe place to stay. And then we help with all the basic needs at our emergency shelter. So food, clothing, pretty much anything you need, we try to provide while they're in that shelter so that they don't have any financial burden. We, of course, don't charge for any of those services. We have a relationship with a thrift store here called the Giving Store, which for those in Vegas, it's at Lake Mead and Boulder Highway near the Walmart. Our clients are able to shop at that store for free, which is super helpful. They can go pick out what they like and what they want, and then a large portion of the proceeds from that store do come back to us. So it's a pretty awesome store. It's very dangerous to walk into because you will spend all your money. I have to be very careful when I go in there. So I already kind of talked about our transitional housing. Anytime somebody calls us with furniture, we try to connect that furniture with our clientele, the rental and security deposit assistance, which I spoke about before. And then we connect with resources, try to find, there's a job posting somewhere. We try to get it to the clients so that they know what's going on. We work with other programs in the area like Unshakable to try to get job training and placement. Our housing manager also does financial planning with our survivors so that we're trying to help them be as successful as possible as they move out of our emergency services. We have a counseling program. We focus on empowerment and validation. Our counseling services are free to our clients, including our children. We currently have 3 counselors. One of them is bilingual in Spanish. It's a marriage and family therapist, 2 of them, and an LCSW is the 3rd one. We try to provide our services with trauma-informed care. When I do say free, I mean like they don't have to turn in any kind of insurance to us or anything like that. It's totally free. You walk in the door, you fill out the paperwork, we'll get you signed up. And then the last piece of that is we do batterers intervention services. So when abusers are court-ordered to take classes, we do provide that service currently 2 times per week. And we have filled up quite quickly with that service. We had it a while back, we didn't have it for a while, and now we have it back. So that is part of our counseling services. Probably the program that we see the most clientele out of is our advocacy services. So we have legal advocates. Their role, they're not lawyers, but they do assist clients with different services, let them know what services they have, what rights they have. So they may go to court with the clients, be a support system in that courtroom, also help explain what to expect, as well as work through what happened in that room, and then provide any kind of resources or referrals, get them connected with legal aid, pretty much anything related to the courts our advocates assist with. And so we have 6 advocates, and one of them is located in the North Las Vegas City Attorney's Office, but is our employee. And then we have another one that's located in the Henderson Police Department, which is also our employee. We really like that connection of keeping, our organization connected with the system. It's worked very well with the Henderson Police Department. We've had an ongoing relationship since 1997, so very happy to have that relationship. We also have community outreach and education. The individual who does outreach, who sometimes does this type of presentation, actually is having her baby shower today, so that's why she is not here. But what we try to do with our community outreach and education is awareness and education in the community, community liaisons and partnerships. We try to focus on youth programs such as teen dating violence. We do peer support groups that are facilitated. We do a peer support group actually here at our office about every other week. And then we also do volunteer recruitment through that part of our programming. So we have volunteers. They do all kinds of different stuff, you know, whether that's helping with a fundraiser to actually answering a hotline in our shelter. We even have a volunteer who does maintenance at our shelter. We have another volunteer who comes in and helps in our finance department. So we can pretty much have a volunteer position for anybody based on what that individual loves to do to help out. So if you're interested in volunteering, you can contact us and I can connect you with our outreach and education person. So that is it for that. Now I have to figure out how to get out of sharing. Stop sharing. There we go. Yeah. So thank you. So that's just the basic overview of Safe House. And we do have 2 events coming up that I would love to share with you guys. One of them is for our 30-year anniversary. We are having a ribbon cutting on Tuesday at noon at our office location. Just to celebrate that we've been around, we will have an individual who's a survivor speaking. Our founder, Julie Proctor, will be saying a few words. I'll be saying a few words. And one of our former survivors is an accomplished poet, so she'll be reading a poem. And we'll have some snacks and food from, it looks like, both Johnny Mac's and Urbane Cafe. So if you want free lunch, you should come down to our office and celebrate our 30 years with that ribbon cutting. And then the other event we have is on May 4th. We have our Crawl for a Cause, which is a bar crawl up and down Water Street. And because it's May 4th for our Star Wars fans, we are encouraging the individuals bring their lightsabers. You get a free raffle ticket to our raffle if you join that. So I can, if it's okay, I'm not sure, share the link for that in the chat. Because it is an Eventbrite, so I can share that before I hop off if those are interested. So does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. What time on May 4th?
It starts at 5 p.m. And the way the tickets work, there are 4 locations that are participating in this crawl. It includes Sticks Taverns, Rockin' Grapes, Gold Mine, and Mojave Brewing, and we sell the tickets so that people start at each location so we don't have like a ton of people all in one spot. So yeah, 5 p.m. is when that starts.
Yeah, definitely share those links in the chat. I do have a couple questions, but I want to make space if anyone else has any questions first, and then I will ask.
I do.
Go ahead, Evan.
So who should, I know somebody who had some furniture to give away, and I'm wondering, and I said, who are you going to give it to? And she said, oh, I'll just take it to Goodwill. And I was thinking, oh, I'm sure there's somebody that needs that, you know, because Goodwill just turns around and sells it, makes a profit off of it. And they don't help anybody. It's a for-profit company. Who do they call? So I'd like to.
So yeah, so they can call our main office. With the furniture, there's kind of 2 things that happen, just to be totally transparent. Okay. So one is, it kind of depends if we have space to put it for us to take it immediately.
Okay.
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But when we don't have space, a lot of times we basically go to our survivor and connect the donor with the survivor directly if the survivor is willing to do that and is okay with that. So sometimes there can be some delay in making that happen, depending if we have somebody who's right then, you know, ready to go with some furniture. So I do say if somebody has furniture and they're thinking about getting rid of it, call us as soon as possible at our main office number, because it could take some, you know, like a week to make that connection happen, depending on what's going on. The other option is you can donate it to the Giving Store. I've touched on that earlier, that we do have a bit of a different relationship with them than just, hey, you drop off your stuff and we get the money. We definitely get assistance with funding from them, but with our clients being able to go there and shop, I mean, it's been so impactful for us to have that store as an option. We used to have a boutique in our shelter. We were 56 beds, and when we removed that boutique to have clients shop at the Giving Store, it actually added beds to our program to come up to 62. And we don't have to try to house all of this clothing and stuff in the location. But the Giving Store also sells furniture and stuff like that. And they also give us anything we need. We just call them and be like, hey, we need this thing, and they give it to us. So it's a really awesome relationship. Yeah.
So the same with clothes. If somebody has clothes to give them to the Giving Store.
Yeah, it works. It works so well, and it's really awesome for the survivors because they get to go there and pick out what they want and the sizes. And there's way more sizes in there than we could ever hold in our shelter. So
where is the Giving Store?
It's near Lake Mead and Boulder Highway. There's the Walmart there, and it's actually in that strip mall in the corner.
Okay.
I think there's like a faux place next to it and the Planet Fitness.
Okay. Thank you.
And a lot of it's operated by a lady from Lake Las Vegas, and so a lot of her friends who live down there donate stuff there. So there is amazing stuff in that store, like tags on, brand name stuff. That's why I say it is dangerous to go in there if you want to get there.
Do you have a flyer or like a business card or like a scanner, anything you can share, send over to me, and we can send that out to like the listserv to like, hey, if you have donations, give it to the Giving Store?
Yeah, I could even give you the link to their website.
Perfect. That works. And then also the same thing for Safe House if you have that. And then same thing for your upcoming events. If you have flyers, then we can attach that to the email that we're going to send out after this. We can send that out. Okay. Are there any other, well, I have a question. I'm going to ask it, and then maybe other folks have other questions and you can ask. One of the things that you said in the beginning was that there's a big challenge with finding affordable housing. And I'm wondering, what are some of the barriers that you're hitting and what are some of the barriers that are in place? There's some folks that are running for office and some electeds that are on the call right now. So what are some of the things that can be done to support that? Because I know that's something that a lot of folks are having challenges with.
Yeah, it's so with affordable housing, the things that we've been, and I wish my housing manager was on this call right now. Big changes that we've seen here is, of course, the cost of rent. I mean, it is skyrocketing for us here in Vegas. And when we have our rent skyrocketing, that then prevents people from moving out of our emergency shelter, which then backs up the ability to take new clientele. And the emergency shelter, and our shelter is very nice. It's kind of set up like a dorm. There are rooms that people stay in. It's not like a big room that people kind of imagine with the shelter. It's still like a challenging place to live because there's so many people stuck in a tiny place. And so it really also prevents people from moving out. And the other thing that we really are seeing is these like tagged on costs associated with even applying for apartments. So there's this astronomical cost of just submitting your application to be able to get affordable housing. So, any work that anybody can do for affordable housing, is a huge barrier. It is probably the biggest barrier. And then that, of course, ties in with living wages. So ensuring that individuals have living wages is imperative to then get the affordable housing. So, those things that you all know are just tied hand in hand.
Thank you for speaking on that. And then another thing I know you mentioned was like you only have 3 advocates right now or something along those lines, and one of them speaks Spanish. Is capacity a big issue that you all deal with, and how can that be supported?
So our counselors actually were the ones that I think you're thinking of, and so actually technically 2 of them speak Spanish, but one of them is kind of designated as a bilingual counselor, and then we have 6 advocates. Capacity, it kind of fluctuates. It comes and goes. We definitely hit capacity at our shelter frequently, and then it'll dip down and go back up and dip down and go back up like that. So, right now we're pretty much breaking even on capacity. Sometimes we go high, sometimes we go low. It kind of depends on, just to be completely honest, it depends on sometimes the weather.
And then there's a question in the chat. Do clients have to have a Henderson address to receive services?
Oh, definitely not. So we service all of Clark County. That's primarily like our area that we serve, but we have absolutely brought in clients from, Pahrump, Mesquite. We've even transferred clients from Northern Nevada who needed a safe place. We have helped individuals from out of state. We're kind of supposed to stick in Nevada, but we've helped individuals from out of state who the program has called us and said, hey, this individual needs to relocate. Their abuser is very dangerous. And so, yeah, they definitely do not need to have a Henderson address to come get services from us. And we found sometimes too, it's safer for somebody, say they lived in North Las Vegas and their abuser stays up there. It may actually be safer to come down to Henderson where they're not traveling the same routes that they may have if they were to stay up in Vegas or North Las Vegas.
Are there any more questions for Beth or Safe House? And Anne-Marie? You're still on mute.
Oh, all right. So, many know, many don't know, but I am a survivor, and Safe House provided the avenue for me to escape about 15 years ago. And so I appreciate all of their work and their advocacy. And although I don't work now, I do volunteer my time back in a law firm that also helps outside of legal aid, battered women to escape where they feel stuck. So I always thank Safe House for everything that they do for the women and the families in our community.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Anna Marie. That's amazing, and I love to hear that from you. So you were there probably right when I started, because I started 15 years ago. So we might have just passed each other, or maybe it was right when I was just a newbie here.
Yeah, I think so. And honestly, watching the housing market is just heart-wrenching for me, because 15 years ago, I could afford to leave because I could afford to leave. And a conversation that we hear out on social media a lot right now is women who want to leave, but they can't, or they feel like they can't. And so it breaks my heart every single day when I see someone reaching out who needs to leave and probably should have left a long time ago. But the housing market right now really puts our women and children in a really bad space, because you can't afford to leave. And unfortunately, the train of victimization just keeps going downhill from there. And we have to fight it, right? And I know I'm not running for a position that has a say in that, but I very much have advocated for the opt-out versus opt-in in our sex education in our school district because of that. Unfortunately, I didn't have present parents and had to really learn the hard way, where we have an opportunity, even though the legislature didn't pass it the last time. I know we have people on here going for that. We really need an environment where the children that are coming up, even in these families that are witnessing it and watching their mothers go through it, have an opportunity to rise above that. Because when you grow up in something like that, you don't know that there's a different way of living. And sorry, I'm going to cry, because it took going through hell and back to realize that people didn't live that way. And if that was just something that could have been taught to me a little younger, because when you live in it, you repeat it, right? And we need to be able to lift our young women up and out of those circumstances. And we can't do that with the current opt-in policy because a lot of them don't have parents behind them saying, okay, you can learn this.
I also wrote a letter for that, the opt out versus opt in too, and I'm totally with you on that one because I mean just interacting, even in my previous jobs before Safe House, I worked in a detention style facility with juveniles. Like parents are just not available to sign those forms, and these young people just don't get education on that matter without that. And one thing that I'm grateful for is the new bill that came out, the AB 245. I always get the numbers. I think that one's right, where we do MOUs with schools now. And part of the conversations I'm having when we're signing these MOUs is okay, we can be a referral source for you, but are you going to let us come into your classroom and talk about healthy relationships? And so we have about 6 or 7 of those MOUs already signed to work in that way too, just to show our young people, there is a different way of having a good relationship. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much. We are going to move along for time purposes. I think we'll take the last 2 hands really quickly. Assemblywoman Claire Thomas.
Hello, and thank you for having this, information. I think that it's very important for us to share information like this. And just real quick question. Do you work together with SafeNest? Because I noticed that a lot of our nonprofits have tendencies of working in silos. And I'm trying to, every time I speak with a nonprofit, to ask this question because I think it's very important because, what I've learned in life that, unity, numbers, change, make a lot of changes, positive changes. And I would just like to know, are you working together? If you are, great. If not, I'm hoping that you will, because this issue affects a lot of us.
So we've pretty much always worked with SafeNest, like in some capacity. Like it's kind of a natural part of our job, especially when we have, say, a survivor is found by their abuser at one location. We end up transferring clients and stuff like that. Since the day I worked here, it's definitely a natural function of that. I think us doing, very similar work. I will also say I love seeing Signs of Hope on this call because we have a formal MOU with Signs of Hope, and we do house their victims of sexual assault in our shelter, as well as do work with their human trafficking program. We also have MOU with the Cupcake Girls, as well as Living Grace Homes. We work with Shade Tree quite a bit. So definitely for me, bringing the community together only supports our, shared missions. So it's important for me to work together for sure. And I'm glad that you bring it up.
Just one follow-up, if you could explain what an MOU is.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I use those things, things, and so it's a memorandum of understanding. So kind of like a contract, sort of. So it's like a written out agreement of services we'll provide you, and you will provide services for us in return. So, and it depends on the different organization what that looks like. So and I said it earlier with the schools too. That's it's the same kind of document. So kind of like a contract.
Thank you so much for answering those questions. For the sake of time, Audrey, do you mind putting your question in the chat, or is it a really quick question?
It's a quick one.
Go for it.
I just wanted to ask if there is any, I know that there's some new building being talked about for affordable housing, and I'm wondering if you have any piece of that, or if you have approached a builder or a conglomerate that has apartments to see if they would be a sponsor to work with you on that, because it's a really important issue. So you don't have to answer it right now because I don't want to move on.
I can say when I became ED, this is has been like the focus of when you think about going into a position like this, or at least for me coming into a position like this, is this area. So I'm like right in the beginning of like understanding this and like jumping in there. And so I love that you said that, and it is absolutely on my radar. I'm just right in the beginning of like diving into that world. So yes, it's on my mind.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, if you don't ask, you don't get. So, I mean, all they can do is say no, but, they may say, I've never thought about doing that before. And, I'd like to help our community. So you never know.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Beth, for being on, and thank you all for such an engaging conversation. I know domestic and sexual violence, it's a deep conversation. It has impacted all of us in some kind of way. So it is something that we all really want to get into and talk about. So I knew this program was going to run a little bit long. It is 4:42, so I am going to ask if folks have a little bit extra time, please stay on because we do have some amazing guests that are going to cover some really important topics today. So I'm going to move us along to our next speaker, Serena Evans. Beth, if you can share your information in the chat, and you are more than welcome to go over to your baby shower, and we really appreciate your time today. Serena is currently the policy director at the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence, where she works to create survivor-centered, trauma-informed policies at both the state and federal level. Serena is passionate about creating a Nevada that empowers, supports, and believes all survivors of intimate partner and gender-based violence. Serena has earned her master's degree in public administration and policy from the American University in Washington, D.C. Combining her personal and professional experiences, Serena enjoys being an advocate for survivors and aims to always center and enhance survivor experiences. Over to you, Serena.
Thanks, Shanze, for the introduction, and thank you all so much for inviting me to be part of this conversation. It's an honor to spend my Sunday afternoon with you all. So like Shanze mentioned, I am the policy director for the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. We are the statewide coalition made up of direct service providers as well as victim advocates, victim survivors, and systems that really intersect and interface with victim survivors across the state. So we do not work with clients one-on-one. Rather, we work at the systemic level to focus on prevention and system intervention and responses to violence happening across the state. I did not put together a PowerPoint as Beth did, so I'm a little less unprepared, but our tagline is educate, advocate, and support. And so we really reflect that through our pillars of our agency. So when it comes to education, we have a robust training department that provides training to any and everybody. So that includes our direct service providers, our advocates, law enforcement, medical personnel, parents, students, really whoever we can train, we will get in front of them and train them on best practices, emerging trends, how to handle disclosures of violence, anything you can think of, we probably have a training on it. In terms of support, we have an amazing program department that really exists to support the direct service providers every day and make sure that there's programming across the state to meet the needs of every single victim survivor. So they provide technical assistance to our advocates, help them navigate problems, develop programming, and developing best practices in order for our direct service providers to serve clients. And then our last branch of advocacy is really policy related. So we work at local, state, and federal levels to make sure that there are policies being introduced that are victim-centered, trauma-informed, meet the needs of victim survivors, as well as our direct service providers, because they are all busy day-to-day working with these clients. So we really go to bat and advocate for them, making sure that they have what they need in order to do the work that they do. So in my role as the policy director, as you can imagine, we're at the legislature almost every day when it's in session. We do a lot of community engagement, community building. We try to really find out what's working well, what's not working well in terms of policy solutions. So in the previous conversation, when Beth was chatting, housing got brought up. That is one of our main issues that we work in. So a lot of times, people think of domestic and sexual violence policy as like criminal justice related, but we really try to take that lens and expand it to focus on prevention and interventions. So we look at things like housing, we look at things like health equity, we look at things like sex education, healthy relationship educations in our schools, and we go to bat and advocate with policymakers, legislators, our systems across the state to really make sure that folks are thinking about it. And, we work very closely with Signs of Hope and Safe House, all of our amazing programs across the state. We really want to hear, what are you seeing being the most challenging issues for your clients, and how can we help hopefully make some positive change? We know that many of the challenges that victim survivors face are systemic. Marginalized communities particularly experience systemic oppression at higher rates that lead to increased risks for violence. So we really look at like the back end side of things and the larger picture of how can we make our communities safer places for everyone to reduce risk for victimization as well as perpetration. So that's kind of a really high key overview, and I'd love to answer any questions that you all may have.
So much, Serena. Any questions coming up, folks, off the top? I always have a few. Jerry?
Yeah, mostly I just wanted to thank Serena for being here. We've worked together on some different things. So Nevada Now is part of a coalition that you have. And how does that work, Serena? I know there's lots of other organizations in Nevada that are part of that.
Yeah, so we call it the Statewide Economic Justice Work Group, and we've brought together a lot of really quote unquote untraditional violence prevention folks. So we've brought in housing folks, we brought in culturally specific programming, we've brought in research folks, as well as amazing folks like you all at Nevada Now. And it's been kind of a dual education opportunity. So we're really educating folks on how their work is violence prevention. And then they're learning about domestic and sexual violence prevention and how we can all work together, because I know the conversation previously was like, so many folks tend to work in silos, but really what we're doing is to better our communities. And when we have happier and healthier communities, we have less violence inherently. And so we've brought together folks working in these very different capacities to kind of identify the intersections of all of our work. And we're in the process, we kind of have these like 5 policy umbrellas, I guess we could call them. So we focus on housing, we focus on access to mental health, we focus on workers' justice, so whether that be livable wages, paid maternity leave, paid family leave, anything along those lines. Increased revenue, because we can't actually have supportive systems unless we have a good funding source to our state. And then the last one being reproductive freedom, so sex education, right to choose, really anything that falls under that bucket. And we are actually, for the very first time this summer, hosting an in-person economic justice policy retreat to help us really narrow down some action items that we as a coalition can work on in this next legislative session. So it's really cool work happening.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry.
Audrey?
So this is a toughie, but have you approached high school level in the school system to be able to do that kind of education? Because there's a lot of young people that grow up learning that kind of behavior and don't know anything different. And so I'm just wondering, if you're able to do some of that.
Absolutely. I think abuse is a learned behavior, and a lot of folks don't even realize that what is happening is abuse. And so if we can stop the cycle of violence, we really need to start with our youth. So we do. Our training department has had some success getting into some schools. We've particularly had success with charter schools. They're a bit more welcoming and let us come into the classroom. And then it's a case by case basis. of teachers being like, yes, come into my school. And so we're really trying to flip the narrative on sex education because for so long it's been tied to Planned Parenthood, which is amazing. They're a fabulous, amazing organization. But people, as soon as you say sex education and Planned Parenthood, the conversation goes to abortion. And it's like, you are missing the point here. And so we're really trying to flip the narrative that it's sex education, but we're really trying to start using the term of healthy relationships education. So you learn about sex, you learn about anatomy, but you also learn about healthy relationships and consent. And so we're trying to be really strategic in our language to get more people involved. And actually through the economic justice work group that I mentioned earlier, is we now have the Pediatrics Association involved, and that's one of their priorities. And so we're trying to be really mindful of who is at the front of that fight and what language are we using? Because if we can make this an anti-violence and a child abuse prevention movement, I think we're more likely to have more success. So we're working on it. It's one of our, I hope one day in my career, I will be able to say that we got comprehensive, medically accurate, inclusive relationship education that is mandatory. And so it's definitely something we're working on.
Changing the narrative. Because if you call it, you're right, if you call it sex education, it's not going to go where you need it to go. And so, yeah, you're on the right track.
Serena, change that, I hope, to one day in my career, I will say I did that.
Yes.
Change that into manifestation. You will. I believe in you.
I love it.
Mercedes?
And we will be there. I was just going to say, and we will be there to help you, Serena.
Yes. Thank you.
Hi there. I just wanted to chime in, thank you for all the great work you're doing, and then just something to, I don't want to say supplement, but support the work you're doing. I wanted to offer it. I started, right now I have the website, I don't have it up, but I have a book club on Facebook called Period Talk, the online red tent. I had endometriosis and 5 fibroids removed from my uterus, and it took me a long time to learn that Black and Hispanic women, we tend to suffer more from those conditions. And I used to be a teacher in the district. By the way, there's no paid maternity leave for teachers. All I had were my sick days, and I had to save those up. And then I didn't get you don't get a full 3 months as a teacher. It's more like 6 weeks, 7 weeks. So it's really interesting just to kind of hear this perspective as well. But I just wanted to offer that because it's been my desire too to work with high school students for a lot of reasons. My mom didn't educate me on the fact that endometriosis was something that ran in my family until I was 30 years old. So I didn't have the education and the tools and the skills. And again, I had like the domestic violence at home and all that. But the healthcare for women, all I knew was that hormones give me pimples and I had a period. And I knew nothing about women's health aside from that. So if you can ever use me, like write my name down, my background, like I said, is as a teacher, but also a survivor, if you will, of a lot of women's health issues, fibroids, endometriosis, very painful conditions that I was told were normal. And you're told to normalize your pain as a woman, and that's been a lot of my experience. And I hope to help young women understand like what is normal and what isn't, because a lot of doctors will invalidate your period pain and just say deal with it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And like I said, on Facebook, it's just called Period Talk, the online red tent. And that's my vision, is to create the concept of a red tent, a place where women, girls, old, young, could talk about these issues. So I just wanted to add that on there if that ever helps or can be of use to you. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Mercedes. I can empathize as someone that has PCOS. It's just got misdiagnosed for years, and you just get gaslit by our medical professions. So I think there is definitely an opportunity for partnership in some capacity, and I look forward to checking out your Facebook group.
Thank you. And we're going to take one more hand before moving on. Just for time's sake, I want to make sure we wrap up by 5:15, and we have one amazing more speaker, so I want to make sure we have time for them. Patricia?
I think.
Sorry. My curiosity is, are we including young men in this conversation? Great. Good to hear
So
that.
yeah, we try for a lack of better terms. There is a much more engagement in the younger generation. So I always say that Gen Z is going to change the world. They really are. I know people have mixed feelings about them,
Good to
but
hear.
I have nothing but utmost respect for Gen Z.
Oh, I love hearing that.
And I think they're really starting to have these conversations among themselves. And I think, as they start to move into more professional capacities and positions of power, I think they're really going to flip that narrative. And so the more men we can get involved in this issue, the better. I mean, domestic and sexual violence, it affects all genders, all socioeconomic statuses. But, I think it really does start and end with men. And I think the more men we have in this movement that call out, unwanted behaviors and hold their peers accountable, the faster we are to get to that preventative stage. And so we try, by and large, this movement is made up by women primarily. And so we're really trying to create space for men and non-binary folks to really kind of be involved in this conversation as well.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Serena, for hopping on and for, again, an amazing conversation. I'm going to move us to Liz Carrasco, who is a licensed psychotherapist and clinical director of Signs of Hope, which was formerly the Rape Crisis Center. Liz earned her Master's of Social Work degree and Bachelor's of Art degree in Psychology and Criminal Justice at UNLV. She is also currently a trauma psychology PhD student at North Central University and a licensed clinical social worker, a certified clinical trauma professional. All of these things, Liz, like your resume, it's so impressive and it's got me tongue-tied. All of our folks today, they've got me tongue-tied with the amazing things that they've got on their resumes. Liz specializes in working with victims of interpersonal violence and sexual trauma and is a part-time instructor for UNLV School of Social Work, where she teaches bachelor level courses for students preparing to become social workers. Liz is also an agency field instructor for the UNLV School of Social Work and has supervised and trained master level students, completing their practicum hours to help them prepare to become clinical interns and future psychotherapists. I'm going to pass it on over to you, Liz. And thanks everyone for staying on for a little bit longer. This is a super important organization to hear from.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction, Shanze. I appreciate it. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, wonderful. It's wonderful to be here. And I love it when we can talk about these very, very important issues. So Signs of Hope, and we did change our name a couple of years ago. We were formerly the Rape Crisis Center, started originally 50 years ago as Community Action Against Rape, and literally started in two wonderful women's garages that just they were outraged that there was a lack of services for people who had experienced sexual assault. And so they got together and, when grassroots activists get together, that's when the change happens. So I'm really excited. I do want to mention that this coming week, Denim Day, National Denim Day, is on Wednesday, the 24th, and we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary on Wednesday. If you're not familiar with what Denim Day is, every year for Denim Day, we commemorate a decision that was taken in 1998 by the Supreme Court of Italy, where rape conviction was overturned by a judge because the victim was wearing tight jeans. And the judge or the panel concluded that she must have assisted her attacker in taking them off because they were so tight. And therefore, they perceived that to be consent. And we know that the clothing that somebody wears
does not indicate whether or not they will be assaulted or not. So every year we commemorate Denim Day and wear jeans to show our solidarity for folks. So signs of hope, one of the things, and I will put the info for our event in the chat just if anyone's interested. We have several different programs. I work in the counseling center, and one of the things that we do is we provide, all of our services are free for clients. We provide individual, group, and crisis counseling. We see folks that have experienced sexual violence and human trafficking, but I do see trauma as a spectrum. Usually we have people that will have multiple types of things. So it's not just usually only sexual assault, but we also will help folks if they've been recently assaulted or if it happened days ago or decades ago, we will help. We help folks that have experienced childhood sexual abuse and domestic violence as well. So we're very, very passionate about providing survivor-centered, inclusive, and trauma-informed services. We currently have 4 full-time therapists. 3 of them are bilingual, including myself, and we also have a part-time contractor. I was putting in the chat that VOCA is a very, very important issue, and VOCA stands for Victims of Crime Act. VOCA funding funds a lot of programs nationwide and especially in the state of Nevada. And within the last year, they made cuts across the state of Nevada to many of our victim services programs, not just for Signs of Hope, but for all service-oriented nonprofits across the board. And a lot of folks lost 40% of funding. And so we had, at one point, a cadre of about 6 additional contract therapists that we had, and we had to lay them off with the VOCA funding. So who we have representing us and making decisions, and of course VOCA is federal funding, but is very important to determine who is going to be supporting things and policies that make an impact for our clients. So that was one example I wanted to mention. But we do see all genders at Signs of Hope. We only work with victims. We do not work with perpetrators, but we see all genders. And we also have a holistic program. So in addition to traditional talk therapy, we also provide things like trauma-informed yoga and Reiki. We also have a pelvic floor group that's done by an occupational therapist. And we have a pet therapy day every month where we will have a trained person with a dog who is a pet therapist that will come in and work with our clients. We do see children ages 4 and up. And so that is something that's very important because I think in the Las Vegas area, there are probably 4 places that treat sexual violence, that treat children. And that's, and we're one of them. And so that's something that's unfortunately a need. And we need more folks that are trained. Also, I mean, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Nevada, unfortunately, ranks almost last when it comes to mental health providers in our state. So another thing I'm very passionate about, in addition to working on issues that are surrounding power-based violence and supporting women and the anti-violence movement, I'm also very supportive about training more therapists that are culturally competent and also able and comfortable to work on these issues, because not everybody is comfortable treating sexual trauma or domestic violence and those kinds of things. Our human trafficking program is wonderful. It's one of our newer programs. It's been in existence for the last 5 years, I believe, and we provide long-term casework to both victims of sex trafficking and labor trafficking that want to get out of the life and lead a better life forward. We also have our advocacy services, which is probably what we're best known for. We provide hospital accompaniment for people that are going to get a forensic exam with a SANE nurse, and that's sexual assault nurse examiner at UMC. We have been working in collaboration with UMC for the past 16 years. And we also have court advocates and other community advocates that help people get connected with resources and find support. As we know, a lot of times if someone experiences sexual violence, it can be very discombobulating to their functioning. And some people have a good circle of support and some people don't. And what research has shown is that the more support someone has, the better outcome and the better chances they have of recovering in a more positive way than if they do not have that emotional support. So that's very important to us to be able to support survivors from many different methods. We also have our prevention and education program, and that's our educators that work with young people. And we are in some Clark County School District schools, but it hasn't been across the board. It's kind of, we have some individual relationships with some principals and teachers that like our curriculum, and we teach young people about healthy relationships and consent and things like that. But it is not across the board. So we definitely recognize the need for that. We also have a prison program and work with incarcerated folks with case management and support. A lot of times people who have been incarcerated have a high number or high amount or rate of sexual violence. A lot of people don't realize just how prevalent this is. I think in the past few years with the Me Too movement, more people are becoming more aware. But RAIN is a wonderful organization that we also work closely with. That's a national rape, abuse, incest national network. And they have wonderful statistics if anyone wants to check them out. But basically, every 68 seconds, someone in the United States is sexually assaulted. And every 9 minutes, that's a child. So it's really, really important that we provide these services. We also are very big on social justice and providing safe and non-judgmental services. I'd say probably 40% of the clients that we have in our counseling center are either immigrants, undocumented folks, or refugees. So we do a lot of work with folks that have also experienced those kinds of issues. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I'm always looking forward to one of the things that I started when I became clinical director last year. Of course, I've been a contract therapist with Signs of Hope for 5 years now. So I'm really, really passionate about working with this population. But I do work with several universities and make sure that we train people and, the younger generations to be able to continue helping clients, not just as advocates, but also as therapists as well. That's something I'm really passionate about. So I see a couple hands up. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think Assemblywoman Claire Thomas's hand went up first, so we can go to her first. But first, I really want to say thank you so much, Liz, for sharing those. All of the information and the statistics that you shared at the end are just absolutely gut-wrenching, and I'm still processing, but I truly appreciate all of the amazing work that you do and everything that you shared. So I'm going to pass it on over for the question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz, for this. It was really, really great. And I have a soft spot in my heart. Back in, I believe it was like 05, 06, somewhere around there, I was also a crisis center and went through the training and was able to be on the hotline and all of those things. And, the biggest question, well, I think that the more in-depth question that I have is the same nurse, because when I was, a volunteer and I would go over to UMC with the victim, it was a wait period of hours before the victim could be examined. And I believe at the time it was just one nurse that was qualified to do the exam. And I was wondering, like I said, that was either 05, 06. Has that changed any?
That's an excellent question, Claire. I think that unfortunately it is still just one nurse. And we are working, I know there's a mobile SANE nurse organization that we have been establishing inroads with to be able to offer alternative options for folks. but there is only one nurse at UMC, and she is very dedicated, and we've worked with her for many years. But I know, for example, Sunrise Hospital used to provide the child SANE exams, and they no longer have anyone qualified to be able to do that. So right now, all of the cases go to UMC, and there is a shortage. And the nurse that we work with is Jerry. She's wonderful, and is very passionate about providing care to clients. But at the same token, she is just one lady. So this is something that we need to address because there is a shortage. And no one's going to be around forever. So we have to figure out how to increase that pool of more nurses that are willing to do this work. Because, of course, just like anything, there's a high amount of vicarious trauma that goes into this work. And so not everyone is interested in the nursing professions in doing this specific type of exam.
And I'm sure it's a loaded, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say thank you to Liz for, letting us all know that this is, one of the, I would say, largest problems with rape victims is getting that information, I'll say information collected so that Metro or whatever police agency can have that, so that we can prosecute those perpetrators. So
thank you. And I see that Serena put in the chat some more information about some of the mobile SANE units and some of the other locations. We currently only work with UMC, but we're certainly open to establishing more relationships.
Yeah, and I think that was going to be my follow-up is like, what is the way for us to establish more locations? And I think that might be a little bit of a loaded question as far as like more nurses being, trained in this field, but is it also like a funding issue, and does that VOCA funding contribute, like those cuts contribute to this lack of staffing?
I think Serena wants to say something about that.
Yeah, I don't mean to intrude on yours,
go
but
ahead.
I just want to say last session we passed, I think I want to say it was Assembly Bill 276. Don't quote me on the number, but we passed a bill saying that SANE exams could be conducted via telehealth. So really anyone could go, let's say, to like an emergency room in their location, and they can essentially like Zoom in with a certified SANE provider. But that was an unfunded mandate. And so there is zero funding to set up that technology. And so we're trying to make these changes to reduce these barriers and these gaps. But as Nevada loves to do, we passed an unfunded mandate. So we've been having conversations with our federal congressional folks to see if there's any way we could get like one-shot federal funding. So far we haven't been successful in like narrowing it down, but we're trying very hard. But it's a funding issue, and it's not necessarily a VOCA funding issue. It's just a general lack of funding for domestic and sexual violence services statewide.
And I kind of wanted to pull on that thread earlier too, but how would we go about securing more general funding? Like what's missing? Why aren't we getting it?
I think, the preferences of the folks that we vote into office, frankly, aren't aware enough about the needs. And there are other states that do have more resources. And I think that's because there's been more inroads and awareness. In Nevada, we're still, kind of a young state compared to other places. And so we don't have a ton of resources. But I think that if people really knew the scope of the problem and just how much of a need there is out there, then a lot of folks would probably support all of the organizations that have spoken here today.
And also, this is Clara Thomas again. Also, if you can explain what it, just briefly, what it takes to be a SANE nurse, because they have to go through additional training, and a lot of times they have to pay for that.
Yes.
And that's a big, when people, don't have the funding to pay for this extra, career additive to their careers, they have a tendency of backing away. But if we as a state could come up with funding for those nurses to go through that, I think, it would help a lot of our victims, because I'm pretty sure you didn't share the stats with us, but here in Nevada, especially Las Vegas, we have a lot of rape victims and a lot that won't come forward. And, when they are victims and we don't have that DNA or that collection, they go to court and they're not prosecuted. I can just imagine telehealth, that being thrown out of court, So yeah.
Yes, it's a very big issue, and I will say that I believe Rain has this statistic, but first of all, sexual assault is the most underreported crime that exists. The majority of people do not report, and that's for various reasons. Obviously, embarrassment, shame, fear of retaliation, fear of not being believed. There are lots of reasons why people do not report. But for those that do, out of every 1,000 cases, sexual assault cases, only 25 out of 1,000 ever see prison time. So the legal system currently is very adversarial for victims, and a lot of people do not want to go through the re-traumatizing process of reporting and testifying and all that. And so we will help people regardless of whether or not they report to police, regardless of whether or not they testify in legal cases. We will provide support, but it is a big issue across our nation.
And then I think Anna had her hand up first. So we'll go to Anna and then we'll go over to Chandra.
All right. Man, I kind of want to hear Chandra, but I know I've had my hand up a while. So Liz, I'm a governor appointee to the Behavioral Health Policy Advisory Council, and I'm the chair this year for our legislative subcommittee. I dropped my email in the chat a while ago because I would really like to connect with you on this, because this is an issue that hasn't been brought forth to us. Mm-hmm. And I've been on that council a couple of years now, but we oversee one of the behavioral mental health block grants. And so we have funding, hopefully, I mean, it's spread, but I would love to invite you to a presentation with our council to see how we can help with this and maybe close one gap.
Thank you. I'd be delighted.
Yeah. So it's binder for Nevada, like a 3-ring binder, number 4 in Nevada. It's easy. But I would love, even if you come to one of our legislative meetings, we have one next week, so the agenda's already set, but whatever. But this is kind of how we start those wheels in motion, is in policy. And, like Claire said, and again, I think this goes back to my comment about the opt out versus the opt in. And when we opt out, we allow an avenue for our male, female, other, and all students to participate in the type of education to prevent domestic violence, to prevent sexual assault. And many really don't know this about me, but as much as I've overcome, I was sexually assaulted January 1st of 2023 in my own garage by my neighbor, who is also an educator.
I'm sorry.
So if many who know who I am, do you know how outwardly embarrassing that is for me, right? I have like a teacher who lives 3 doors down from me who did that to me. And so it's really changed, since January of last year, a lot of things that I do in addition to things that I do, right? But just for the people who have stuck around, I'm a CASA, because when we can uplift the voices of those children in these situations, we get to be that for them, right? I'm a survivor. We show up, we talk, we connect. And then we just keep showing up, because that's all sometimes we know how to do. And that showing up and that advocacy with that passion and that relatability and our stories are more powerful than any money you can put in a lobbyist. And so I say that out loud because I know the people that are participating in our group right now are the people that will show up for us. And we need that, and we need that really strong as we're heading, well, right now we're in our joint interim session. We're going into another legislative session, and we have power and presence.
Thank you, Anna Marie, for sharing. And I'm so sorry that that happened to you, but I am I'm so in admiration of you using your story to empower others and give back. And so thank you for sharing that.
And
Well,
then
like I said, all we can do is show up. We have to keep showing up because each of us has a story, whether we like to admit it or not. And those stories are powerful, and they're more than money can buy.
Agreed.
And then we'll go to our last comment for the evening. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, are you able to come off mute? I think you have your hand up for a question.
Mm-hmm.
You might have a connection problem. I don't know.
Okay, sorry about that.
There you
I
are.
was struggling
Now we can hear
severely
you.
with the mute button. Sorry about that. So I will tell you all that the one thing, first of all, hello, ladies. It's always wonderful to see the warriors who are constantly fighting to ensure that the voices of women are being heard on a regular basis. Because we know from experience that when we're not in the room, nobody's talking about our issues.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, ladies, for truly keeping the faith and pushing the issues forward. I just want to talk about funding. I believe, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I learned in the session in 23 that the majority of the money for the SANE examinations comes from the federal dollars from victims of crime. And so we probably need to have a push to make sure that our congressional delegation is ensuring that that money is reauthorized, because once that money runs out, as it is given out to our local entities, or at least Clark County, once that money runs out, they will no longer pay for these SANE examinations. And one of the complaints or concerns that we heard from Clark County when we passed AD 257, which mandates that the county pay for the SANE exams, because women were paying $1,500 up to $1,500 out of pocket after being victimized, just to make sure that proper biomedical stuff was collected so that there could be a prosecution. They'd have to pay for it. So we need to make sure that that money is coming from our federal delegation. So as you're out supporting candidates, please talk to them about making sure that there is a reauthorization of these dollars to pay for these. And thank you, didn't mean to carry on. And go ahead and mute me because my thing's not working good on my phone.
Shoot, I can do that. No, I can't do that.
I can do
Eva's
it.
going to have to do that.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Thank you. Thank you. Very important comments, Chandra, and I definitely agree with what you're saying. Serena, did you want to add anything about the SANE exams or the funding piece of that?
Yeah, I put it in the chat, but I do just want to note that VOCA for this upcoming fiscal year 24 just received a $600 million budget cut, which is going to be detrimental. And so the coalition is working on some sort of VOCA stabilization here in Nevada. We're not quite ready to go public with logistics yet, but we plan to, we're doing something around it. And once we're able to share more of that, I would love the opportunity to come back and chat with all of you about that and how you can help support it, because it's going to be a really big push during the 2025 legislative session, and we'll need as many voices as possible. So,
well, one thing about
absolutely, Serena, absolutely,
we're great supporters.
Well, I'm going to say thank yous to Serena, Liz, and Beth, who hopped off a little bit earlier. And I'm going to pass it over to Sue and Jerry to close us off for the evening. Thank you all for the space for our program tonight.
Sue, can I ask a quick question of Serena,
Sure,
just
sure,
to cap
sure.
it? I put it in the chat, but is it something that we could set up a meeting with our representatives for organizations to talk to them about the money for both, frankly, but it sounds like something that we need to get from federal money.
Yes and no. So I mean, when we talk about VOCA is a non-taxpayer dollar funding source, and so it comes from federal prosecution and deferment fees. And just kind of the way we've changed federal prosecution, it's just not really a stable funding source anymore. And so we are looking at a state solution that would have longevity and be sustainable. We are looking to convene a group of coalition folk.
Oops, I think we lost her.
Did we lose her?
Yep.
Well, we're part of that coalition, so we'll follow up with her.
Absolutely.
Or she may pop back on, but.
Shanze, thank you for putting this program together. It was informative. It was heartbreaking. It was anger provoking. Yeah. This is not a conversation that should end here. All our guests have put their contact information in the chat.
Serena just texted that her laptop died and she's joining by phone, so that may be her that just popped on.
Is that you, Serena?
I don't know, but anyway, that's what that was what happened.
But yeah, it's not a conversation that ends. And for Liz, you're still here. When it comes to the legislative session, and Shanze, make sure we pass this on. I know Serena knows, but pass it on to Beth. When it comes to the legislative session, Nevada Now is there, and will always be there. I think we followed over 100 bills last session and testified on easily half of them either in person or by phone, and had an opinion on all the other ones. So I mean, we show up in our pink is what we do. So
I was going to say we get angry, yes. But also that just causes us to take action. So however we can help.
I'm sitting here just like antsy going, I want to do something. So always let us know how we can help, what we can do. And Serena's coming now. She's connecting to audio. So, but I truly appreciate it. And you, Liz, you are amazing. Your resume was unbelievable. And I would love to be able to keep some of those, the social workers and all that you train, the nurses, everybody here. So that I think is another issue when it comes to dollars and cents. Serena, you're back on your phone after your computer died. Yay.
Sorry.
It happened.
Didn't pack my charger and I'm at my parents' house for Sunday night dinner. But yeah, as I was saying, we're bringing together a coalition of folks to really focus on this funding issue. And I know we're approaching the end, so I will just say that Nevada is one of the very few states that does not fund domestic or sexual violence in its general budget. And so that's why we really push so hard on the revenue side of things. But this funding bill that we're bringing forward is going to be a big push, and it will be like a sustainable bill with longevity. So once we kind of have some more information that we can take public, we will bring it back to this group, and it will be a state solution, which I think is really incredible.
That's absolutely fabulous. In fact, I think we just recently learned exactly how to advocate for those budget line items, which is going to be our goal in the next session, is to get in there on those committees and those hearings to fight for those. So what I was saying is, please, the conversation doesn't stop here. We're all in. Please always let us know how we can help, what we can do, and keep the conversation going. But thank you for taking the time. And I appreciate everybody sticking around too.